What is up, everybody? Open houses, possibly the best source, number one source for new business. Hey, everybody, Mike Ferrante here with Century 21 Homestar and the 21 Mike team. We're real estate agents serving greater Cleveland and all of Northeast Ohio, all the way down to Columbus. Yes, the northern half of Ohio. So if you have any real estate needs in Ohio, please hit us up. Go to 21mike.com, click that little button at the top, and you can get on our calendar and we'll talk real estate. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, please smash that subscribe button. I haven't said that in a while, Tony. Smash it. Don't just press it, smash it. Follow us so you don't miss future trainings. We do training, we do a bunch of informational videos for buyers and sellers, for investors, and for agents. And with the end of the year coming up, Tony, I have a feeling there are going to be some agents thinking about making a change. So it's a great time to talk to me, talk to Tony, and you can go to tonytalk.net to talk to Mr. Tony Geraci. Drumroll. Tony, welcome. How's it going, man?
Good day. Nice day out there in the Cleveland area.
Yeah. October sunshine. Can't argue with that.
That's for sure.
The only
It
sad thing,
belongs.
yeah, the only sad thing is we're not watching October baseball anymore. But hey, it was a fun ride, right?
Hey, could have went if it went far enough. It was
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Yep. Next year, the cry of the Cleveland sports team. So Tony, of course, broker owner of Homestar, he spends his time solely helping agents grow their business. If you have questions for Tony, that tonytalk.net is the best place to get on his calendar. And Tony, you can reach him 23.5 hours a day. He has to take that half hour every day to recharge his robot batteries to keep him going. All right, go ahead, Tony. What'd you have?
I was gonna say yes, anytime. Sometimes it's midnight. Some buyer seller really needs an answer for something, so I'm always watching. So emergencies, we have to be there.
Yeah, and somehow Tony finds time to manage over 500 agents here at Homestar, the biggest single office for Century 21, right, Tony? That's still true?
Well, we're definitely in the top. Well, single office, yes,
Hmm.
but in the offices, we're usually number two or three for production wise for
Per
single
unit.
offices.
Right, right. Yep. So awesome, Tony. Let's get started. So I am high right now, not high in that way, but high on open houses. I have to be careful what I say. I think open houses are the singular number one best way to generate new business. And I'm curious, those of you watching this or listening, please drop your comments below. I want to know what you're experiencing with open houses. Has traffic increased, decreased? What kind of objections are you getting? Because for two reasons, I think open houses are huge right now. Number one, lack of inventory. And I know we've been talking about that forever, but because there's a lack of inventory, buyers have FOMO, that fear of missing out. So if you have an open house right after having a new listing, I think you'll have buyers rushing to that open house. And secondly, we have buyer's agency. And buyer's agency agreements, I think, are being adopted pretty well. Again, I'd be curious to hear your comments, everybody listening and watching. How are you doing with having buyers sign agency agreements? But of course, Tony, not here to present legal advice because we're not attorneys, but my understanding still is that the open house is the one place that agents don't have to have people signing buyer's agency agreements before walking in the door. And that breaks down a barrier. So, Tony, your thoughts on open houses, and is that not true? People can just walk in, right?
Of course, I really feel that this is the last several years or more when it's a seller's market. It's more times to have than open house because you have a product that's it's in demand. You should get more people there on that. So yeah, so I always push for open houses.
So, Tony, we're going to talk about two things today. First of all, why open houses are good, how to make them effective. And then, secondly, we'll talk a little bit about what to say. So, we'll talk a little bit on scripts at the open house. So, first of all, what do you say, Tony, to the agent who says, yeah, Mike, it's easy for you to say your team has between 60 and 100 listings. I don't have any listings. What do you say to that agent?
So reach out to other agents in our office that have listings and see if they can or want to have an open house. So there's agents that just don't have the time or have more than one open house. You only one agent is only one of them. So if they have more than one house or listing, they might want someone to go sit there. And also, I just to jump the gun on some of the stuff, I try to tell our agents, listing agents, just because you don't have the time or don't want to put the effort in, don't sell your or unsell the open house to your seller. Because I talked to some agents a couple times every other month. They're like, I have these agents call me when I have open houses, but I already convinced the seller not to have them because they didn't want to do them. Don't do that. So
Yeah. And if you're one of those agents who says, "Oh, I talk my sellers out of having open houses," I'm really curious why. Like, I'm willing to entertain that idea. Sure, there's going to be certain instances where maybe it's not appropriate. Maybe they have, they want things supervised or whatever. But in general, from a pure marketing standpoint, the open house is still one of the best ways to get traffic, get interest, get feedback, and get offers. So Tony, going back to that, if you have a seller who says, "Oh, Mike, I don't want to have an open house," what do you say to that seller?
it's just you're limiting the buyers. There's people that are in the area, especially those people that are in the area. They want to see the house. There's neighbors that want to see your house that have friends, relatives that might convince them to buy your house, but they didn't think of it until they actually saw the inside of your house.
Yeah.
So it can't, number one, it can't hurt. Can't hurt. Only help.
Tony, but isn't an open house just nosy neighbors?
Oh,
What do you-
not at all, but sometimes it does. There's someone that starts that way, then and is surprised by how nice your house is, and then brings in a friend or relative that wants to live in the area and never even thought that.
Yeah. So Scott throws a question out there real quick. What's the best time? I think it depends on the market. So, for example, we have a market called Beechwood and University Heights. We're part of that. It's a large Orthodox Jewish community. So I would say don't have your open houses on Saturdays in those neighborhoods. But, I think Saturday open houses can work in other areas. We like doing ours Sundays, anytime from noon to 4 or 5 o'clock. We usually do 2 hours of open house, and I'll get into that in a minute. But also, you have to consider other factors. So here it's, I hate to bring it up, but it's Browns season. And while they're not much to watch this year, or pretty much any year, you don't want to compete with events going on. So do take the time. This is getting into how to make them successful. Pick the right times, pick the right days. Don't compete with other stuff going on in your neighborhood. So if the Browns game is 1 o'clock, maybe your open house is 11 to 1. Maybe it's later in the day after people have already left at halftime and realize the Browns are going to lose again. So really think about those things when you're scheduling your open houses. So Tony, I wanted to tell a quick story about an open house that we did a few months ago. We had an open house and we door knocked, and I'll get into that in a second. But anyway, we knocked on the doors in the neighborhood, and a nosy neighbor came, and we welcomed him, and he said, "Oh, wow, this is a great house." Next thing you know, he brought three different buyers that he knew that he worked with, showed up during the time of that open house to come see this property. So to your point, Tony, nosy neighbors turn into referral sources. You just never know where it can lead. So I'm all about it. Now, Tony, I know that door knocking, some people get afraid of that, and that's literally just knocking on the doors around the property and inviting the neighbors. And I like the idea of a pre-public open house. Hey, Tony, we're having an open house at your neighbor's house, the Smiths. They wanted me to, invite all the neighbors, and private pre-open house 11 to 12 before the public open house at noon. Stop on by, or just invite them to the open house in general. But Tony, what do you say to an agent who says, "Oh, Tony, I'm afraid to knock on doors. That's not my thing."
No, it's a perfect time to do it because you're doing it on behalf of the seller and it's invitation. So I've helped agents with scripts that I think are the best one when someone, oh, hi, I'm, Tony Geracious Century 21 Homestar. The Smiths, your neighbors down the street, wanted me to invite you and give you this to their private open house this time. It's most people, I would say, if even if they weren't interested, no, you're not selling anything. It's invitation, and you're doing something that your neighbors said they probably won't want your neighbor to find out that you're screamed at them and slammed the door at them to invite them on that. Also, I mean, don't know if you would say this too, but also those, sometimes I tell agents, provide snacks and things and drinks for people that come to open house, and sometimes the agents don't want to spend that much money, but maybe the good stuff could be for the neighbors. That could be more for referrals, and then bring in the other stuff for the general public that's coming in, and make it more special for the neighbors that are still going to be friends with your clients when they move.
Yeah. Did you like my flex there as you were saying that script, Tony?
Yes, thank
So,
you.
now, I don't mean to intimidate people. Yes, this is working out at least once a week. I get this way. Tony's not going to flex because there's not enough room in his screen there to show off his biceps, and he doesn't want to make me feel bad. But perfect script, Tony. I love that. The other thing, okay, now we're talking about buyer leads today, but I have to mention this. Door knocking is a fantastic way to get new seller leads. Okay, so my script includes, and I'm sure Tony would have gotten to it, is, oh, by the way, when will you be thinking about making a move? Okay. And yeah, 9 out of 10 people are going to say, oh, we're staying here until whatever. They're going to carry me out of here. And we have a good chuckle. And then I move on to the next house. But 1 in 10, 1 in 15 people are going to give you a different answer. And it's going to be, well, maybe later this year. That's the home run. Or maybe in 2 years when our last kid graduates, or whatever it is, fill in the blank. And that's someone you follow up with, guys. You're there at their door anyway. Why not find out who your likely sellers are in that neighborhood coming up? Right, Tony? These can be listing opportunities.
Yes, everybody that you talk to that should be on a timeline. Anybody that you could at least have a conversation with, follow up with, you have their phone number, you know where they live. It should be on somewhere in your database and notes of these are people are going to move in the next 1, 2, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, And then I use my bad joke. Here's my bad joke. I say, if they say they're going to carry me out of the house, you ask, well, how good's your health? So those,
Yeah.
but yeah, everybody should be on a timeline.
So those of you doubters who say, "Oh, Mike, you can't get listing appointments that way," it's not true. We get listing appointments that way all the time. It happens all the time. Okay. Now, let's go backtrack to how to make your open house successful. My number one is door knocking. Number two, Tony alluded to it, make it an event, make it special. Everybody does an open house, but how about a wine and cheese open? Especially if you're doing a twilight open house in different hours, like evening hours. It's Halloween time. How about a Halloween themed event? Bring the kids. I'll have can. We'll be passing out candy. There's all different types of events, and make it something special where the neighbors want to come. We did one, Tony. I remember I had a little fake putting green, and I had a little contest. Make a putt, win a prize. Kind of cheesy, but so what? It gives people something to do. They stay longer, giving you more time to chat them up. So turn it into an event. That's the whole Tom Ferry mega open house idea. The other thing I'm going to throw out, oh, go ahead, Tony. I know you have
Well,
a
I was
had one.
going to say, and for the penny pinchers, the perfect time is after Halloween. It's going to be a Sunday after Halloween. Go get to the store. Candy's going to be a little bit cheaper.
I love it. So, Tony, the other thing is signage. Okay. And I know this sounds really mundane to talk about signage. Oh, Mike, we all have signs. We put up 1 or 2 signs. Guys, you're missing the boat. You're devoting 2 hours of your day, and I'll talk about why it's only 2 hours in a second. 2 hours of your day plus a little prep time before and tear down time after. Why not maximize your traffic? And some people are just driving by and see the sign and pop in, and you're like, oh, those aren't high quality people. So what? You need to have more conversations. You never know who wanders into an open house. I'm saying put up 10, 20 signs, especially if you're close to a bigger street. Tony, one of the first things you taught me in the business, the busier the street, the bigger the sign. If I'm off of Route 91 here, I'm putting 5, 10 signs just on Route 91 so that people see the sign all spaced out in a row so they have time to slow down and turn in. One sign at the corner, that doesn't do squat. I saw a sign today, Tony. I was already out on appointments. I saw a sign, one sign, it was a for sale by owner. I passed it. I couldn't even get the phone number. One sign is not effective. So signage.
Exactly. And I know a lot of agents, and this is just my opinion. I'm not talking about city rules and regulations, but don't quote me on this, but you could call the city, find out, because some agents like, I don't want to get the city in trouble. I don't want to put too many out. I might get in trouble. Some agents just, kind of, I feel it out. In most cities, they know as long as it's not out there for 2 weeks in a row that you're having an open house trying to sell someone's house that's living in their city, and they don't usually have a problem with it. The problem is usually if there's someone's house in front of it, you're putting 10 signs in front of someone else's house on their tree lawn. So just be
True.
careful of that. But there's really, I've never in 26 years of having an office, someone get fined or get in trouble with a city. I did have one city once just pick up all the signs and they brought them to the city hall and the agent picked them up later. But that was it once in 26 years.
That Tony, that happened to us. Shaker Heights doesn't allow signs, and they picked up our signs. Now, part of the reason they picked up our signs is we do the next thing that I'm about to talk about is the open house Saturday, open house Sunday sign, and with a little rider that says 11 to 1, 12 to 2, whatever it is. That's when we usually have ours, 1 to 3. We have different riders that we put on with those time slots, 2 to 4. And putting that sign up a little early so that everyone driving home from work on Thursday and Friday can see the sign and say, oh, Mike's having an open house there on Sunday. I think that's helpful as well. But like Tony said, know your local ordinances. Don't get a ticket. Don't get your sign picked up and have to make an extra trip to the police department or city hall to grab your signs. But I think the signage is really critical, Tony, and it's something that agents overlook. They just say, well, I've got 2, 3 open house signs. That's good enough. Are we here for good enough, guys? Say it with me. No. All right, Tony. Now, why only 2 hours? Sure, you could spend 3, 4 hours at your open house, but I say scarcity is valuable. So if you're sitting there for 3 or 4 hours, people are going to wander in at 5 minutes till your open house ends. You can stay, you can come a little early, stay a little late, let the early birds, kind of like garage sales. People always come a little early to those type of things, and you can stay a little late because that's when you want to have your conversations with people. So I think more than 2 hours, you're making yourself too available. I would rather see you do two 2 hour open houses on a Sunday rather than one 3 or 4 hour open house. So make it scarce. Make it something like, oh, wow, that one's only open from 1 to 3. We have to get there and see that house. What do you think, Tony? Am I wrong on that?
No, you're right. And some people already know, like say it's 12 to 2 and it's 2 o'clock. They still see the sign out. They know you didn't pick up your sign. They're gonna at least they'll drive by. So sometimes, agents they drive by, well, it's after 2, 2:15. Let's at least drive by and then they see your car there, see the door open. Let's go in. So yeah, if you get there a half hour early, stay a half hour later, closing up. And don't again, like you said, I wouldn't get there right when it starts. It wouldn't leave, like start turning off lights and closing doors and everything, and try to get out of there 1 minute afterwards. So
Yeah. So, Tony, I promised a little bit on scripts, and so we're down to our last couple of minutes, but I do want to mention two things. So, number one, remember, guys, it's our duty to find out if that potential buyer is represented. Now, I've always been a proponent of asking the question, hi, welcome to my open house. Do you have a realtor? I don't want to open with that necessarily because it's the whole we saw this at a Century 21 event, Tony. The coach was on stage and said, "Okay, imagine you're walking into the furniture store and you're there to buy a dining room table, and the salesperson comes up to you and says, 'Hi, can I help you find anything today?' And in unison, almost everyone in the room said, what's your response to that? No, I'm just looking. And why do we say that? We lie to the salesperson because we don't want to be bothered. We don't want to be sold. So our gut reaction is no, 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 leave me alone. I'm just looking. Now, yeah, 1 in 10 people say, hey, I'm looking for dining room tables. Can you tell me where they are? But the idea is that if the first question you ask people walking in the door is, do you already have an agent? They're going to say yes, just to have you leave them alone. So I recommend in the script asking some other questions first. Okay. Are you here for the open house? That's an easy yes. How did you find out about it? How have you been looking for homes? How long have you been looking? Have you made any offers yet? Wow, 6 months, Tony. That's a long time. Have you made any offers yet? All of these are questions that help uncover if you have an agent. And then, of course, if you find out they do have an agent, the follow-up question is, of course, oh, are you being represented by them? Have you signed a contract with them? It's our duty to find that out. But Tony, what do you think about that? I mean, I'm not trying to skirt the rules, but what do you think about that approach?
Exactly. I'm always pushed to ask questions that get them to say yes or give an answer and try to avoid the no's or, or just looking type thing. So yeah. So just right away, how are you here for the open house? That's a yes. You already got them saying yes.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to say yes and open up for questions. So no, it's just that don't ask the same questions everybody else is going to ask and start a conversation.
It's all about the conversations, Tony. And the other part of this is what do you think the mindset of most agents is, Tony? So I'm doing an open house. I've got my sign-in sheet. What do you think most agents are trying to get on that sign-in sheet? What's their whole mindset? What are they trying to get?
Their name and phone number and email address.
So they're trying to get contact info. I would challenge agents to change their mindset, Tony, to don't try to get contact info because what happens? You get 10 contacts and then you end up being able to reach one or two of them after the fact. My challenge for you is set appointments. Instead of just being happy with name, phone number, email address, hey, Tony, tell me more about your search. How long you've been looking? Oh, you don't have an agent yet. Has anyone taken the time to do a buyer consultation with you? And just that, set an appointment for a buyer consult. What do you think, Tony?
Exactly. You're just there to help and explain that you're there to help. Obviously, the good news for you, if they're looking at the house in an open house, they already feel, especially if they're looking in that area, that type of house, they think they at least a little bit think of you as an expert because you are the listing agent there. So you have your toes in the door already.
Instant credibility, right? So, Tony, we're about out of time. We have another video we did probably a year or two ago, all about the script, all about the open house script. So, if you want, track that one down, and please join us every Tuesday for training. But Tony, we're going to wrap it up. I'll stay for questions and comments after. Any final thoughts before we finish up here, Tony?
No, great. Keep on having them. And one other thing too is even when the property is pending or that you could still have open houses for second offers. You always could continue to show properties. I always hate agents calling me on a Sunday morning and go, I accepted an offer last night and can you take off my open house off the MLS for today? I'm like, why don't you just have it? Just you already prepared for it. The seller's already prepared for it. Just continue to have it. So you don't. So sometimes, oh, I can still do that. Yes, you could still have open houses.
And
So
Tony, correct me if
also,
I'm wrong. The key there is that we just have to tell people, hey, it is
oh,
contingent, right?
correct, exactly. And also, I feel my personal opinion is when obviously you represent the seller, it keeps that buyer honest. What it means is that sometimes buyers come in, they write an offer, they have an inspection coming up, they think they got the world, I got them, and then they don't read their agent or they didn't think, wait, what? They could accept second offers? They could continue to show the property? Yes. So it might keep them a little more honest. I use that word because they know that you're still having open houses. You're still showing seconds. So hopefully that makes some sense.
Yeah, 100%. Imagine how much more leverage you have and control, power, and negotiation you have if you have a backup offer or two. Great advice from Tony as always. Join us every Tuesday, guys, 11:30 to 11:50-ish, because we always go a little over. And by all means, please subscribe on YouTube. Go to our website, 21mike.com and tonytalk.net. Thanks for being here, Tony. I'll stay for a couple questions.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.